We're on the morning break of the questioning of Mark Metcalf, a activist who was targeted by Mark Jenner. He was involved with the Colin Roach Centre, coming out of the Hackney Community Defence Association. I'm joined by Heather Mendick, who's been watching his evidence alongside me. What have you made of what we've heard?
So far it's kind of a character study of Mark Metcalf and what he did and how he was as an activist, which I think is quite difficult for the person who's interviewing him.
She's not having a good time with it at all.
He keeps saying, "Oh, that's a little bit of a tangent. Could I just bring you back to this document?" But actually, if you're watching it as an activist, particularly if I live in Hackney, it's fascinating and it's just a wealth of different perspectives on how movements work, on how meetings work, on how you can run successful campaigns. It's really valuable. Yeah,
I mean, it is a history lesson in 90s politics. The Colin Roach Centre was involved in a lot of things. We saw a lot of publications that they were involved with publishing. A lot of the posters, leaflets. I mean, it took an hour before Mark Jenner was mentioned because we went through so many documents. Mark Metcalf has a lot to say. Apparently, he's a Sunderland fan, I think.
I think he might be a Newcastle fan.
Oh, careful. It was, call him anything but that.
Exactly. That was quite interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He's very strong on. I think football is his first passion, politics is second passion, but it's clearly a big passion. And the Colin Roach Centre is a legend in Hackney in terms of like people who are still in the movement there. And it's clear why when you listen to him, because it was this kind of nexus of different activities, sort of trade union activity, community defence. They had a Turkish group there who met there. They had a lesbian and gay support group who met there. And even though there were tensions sometimes between these groups, it just provided this space where people could do things. They would get solicitors in to support cases. They had like real on the ground knowledge. They worked across different perspectives. So they had anarchists, they had Trotskyists, they had people who came from different traditions, but who the centre could provide space for, and it worked.
One of the big areas of work they did was exposing police criminality, police racism, police harassment of people. And it was that which was featured in the targeting document, which we saw of Mark Jenner. He was tasked against two named individuals, Norman Blair of Class War and Mark Metcalf of the Hackney Community Defence Association. And in it said the allegations, the group made allegations of police harassment, racism, stalking, and criminality. He said, no, these are proven. He was very adamant about this. These are proven things. You're proven. This was factual. But by this point, there's no allegation talk about any of this stuff. This is proven stuff.
Yeah, he's obviously very proud, as he should be, of the track record. I think he says something like they took up 98 cases and they won 90 of them, which is remarkable. And they did it because they understood they had a reputation. They'd had good activists who went before them, actually, and stuff. But yeah, the targeting is interesting, isn't it? Because in the targeting documents, it says something like neither of these organisations, Class 4 or the Colin Roach Centre, it was the Hackney
Community Defence Association at that point, which is what the Colin Roach Centre partially came out of.
Yeah. Neither of these is big enough to justify infiltration, but they're a good way into the anarchist community. We've got to infiltrate the anarchists, and that's kind of feels very dishonest, partly because these weren't good ways in, as he makes clear. He did not have a good reputation broadly in the anarchist community. He wasn't an anarchist. He actually found quite annoying.
He was quite sectarian about anarchists.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
he criticised the anarchist work ethic, which
he did.
I mean, like, if you want to irritate me, like, criticise my work ethic, man. Like,
I think no one could doubt your work ethic, but maybe he would see you as an atypical anarchist. But regardless, he did not fit well in the anarchist community. It was not going to help. And also, it's dishonest because they clearly wanted to go after organisations which were very effective against the police and getting police accountability. And yet they weren't honest about that ever. They always came up with these ridiculous excuses.
Yeah, the targeting document was fairly extensive. It's very unusual, actually, up until now. It was one of the first ones we've seen where an undercover officer is targeted specifically against named individuals. But it tends to be against groups. I mean, we've heard of Dave Hagan, who was targeted against an area. To have something so kind of directly linked to one individual, or two individuals in this case, it was felt that he needed a friend before he started going along to meetings, and he went straight for Mark Metcalf, it appears. We haven't really got into Mark Jenner's deployment at all yet. We haven't seen any. I mean, to be honest, I mean, that first hour just being about the sort of the background and stuff meant that we haven't really got that much into the deployment. But I
think that's in a way good. I'm always frustrated by this focus on it being structured around police reports, as if the history of activism, which we're getting, is about what the lies that we're told, and this is kind of everyone has their strategies, right? When they're giving evidence of diverting, really of taking control. And this is, I don't think this is even a strategy necessarily. This is just perhaps how Mark Metcalf is. I don't know the guy, but it's very, very effective at taking control of the proceedings. He's very chatty with the guy who chairs it, John Mitting, and usually we have these breaches of security, or not breaches of security, breaches of these restriction orders, and we don't have any idea why. You're not allowed to talk about it. He's always like saying, "Oh, it's that person I mentioned, is it? I'm really sorry, I didn't realise." And that's actually quite useful. To be like, "Oh, okay, I forgot we weren't supposed to mention so and so." But it's also showing how he's completely going against the system. All these rules and all these things that people implicitly are respectful of, he has no respect for them, which I think is really great.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, it's very. He really is dictating the pace of the hearing today. Like, one of the most blatant. I mean, he's completely, as you say, incredibly chatty, both with the Sarah Hemingway, who was questioning him, and with the chair. In some cases, she had real trouble getting a word in edgeways.
Oh, totally. She tries really hard, and he just says, "No, I've got to just tell you this." And it's like, if you don't mind, I'll just do 2 minutes on this.
Yeah.
And she hasn't really got a choice. It's not if you don't mind it. It's just I'm going to do 2 minutes on this because I think it's important.
Yeah.
And it's always insightful.
Yeah, I mean, very much so. I mean, one of the documents that we looked at that had been published by the Colin Roach Centre was the rank and file or broad left, the history of the building workers group, written by Brian Higgins, now sadly dead. Like Mark Metcalf, I don't know how long we talked about it, but we talked about a good while about the deaths on sites, about the fact that the trade union leadership were letting workers down, that the pushing for the corporate manslaughter thing wasn't going to be enough. Talked about how they lost that because UCAT official brought civil proceedings against Brian Higgins, and Mark Jenner ended up being the secretary of the Brian Higgins defense campaign, and really like kind of how these sort of things were like really central to what the Colin Roach Centre was about. He points out that, I mean, it's a very famous pamphlet, Rank or File or Broad Left. He said, this is the most important book on trade union activity of the late 20th century, and he used the platform today to bring up these things. He
did. That's really great, and he has said some stuff. So although we haven't seen many reports, he has said some really interesting stuff about Mark Jenner and about some of the ways he kind of had an idea that he wasn't to be trusted, and that came out of the two areas of expertise he has outside of football, which is building work and football. And Mark Jenner just couldn't really cover for those. He didn't look like a building worker. He was never dirty, and he didn't act like a Tranmere fan, because it wasn't just have those links.
He didn't have
community.
I mean, basically, he said that he knew other Tranmere fans. So he asked them about him, and they didn't know him, and he was, that's a bit strange. I'm always quite wary of people's like, I always knew stuff about undercover officers, because I think what everybody forgets is the way that there was suspicions about everybody.
Right.
And that, the fact that he had suspicions about Mark Jenner was probably in a context of having suspicions about all sorts of people. But certainly, that idea that, people have hinterlands. If you're going to be like a football supporter and you're like a regular away games, then you better know a load of people. Do you know what I mean? Like, or just be a known face. It's otherwise it doesn't add up. It's only a short break because it's the morning break, and we better go back in. Anything else you want to
add? No, please tune in. This is really, really. I mean, the whole of this week has been really fascinating, but and all different. So and come along, because there were 2 breaches this morning, which means you lose the feed for maybe a quarter of an hour, and that makes it very disjointed. I've done that, watched at home, and been like, where are we picking up? What's happening between? Whereas when you're here, you get the whole story. So if you can come in,
please do. We'll see you at lunchtime.